Today, let's talk about why women don't apologize, what this means about women, more importantly, what it means about you as the one who may be frustrated by a woman's lack of apology. Then we'll look at the field of psychology, why it is ill-equipped philosophically to answer this question properly. As the model for this ineptitude, we have one Dr. Orion Taraban over at PsychHacks who tries to answer this question, but what he says is pretty lame. So first we'll talk about Dr. Taraban's answer. He does get something right, but he's mostly wrong. Then we're going to discuss what a correct answer to this question looks like, which will let us see what the answer is. Yeah, we'll discuss what it looks like, then we'll look at the answer. That'll make more sense when we get to it. And then we'll talk about how to resolve the issue, which may include some guidelines I have for how to apologize properly, which is something that a lot of people talk about, but the point is often missed. So what was Dr. Taraban's answer to the question, why don't women apologize? And just as a quick aside here, this is not to pick on Dr. Taraban. I think 99%, more than 99% of psychologists out there would not answer this correctly. I see him here more as a model of symbol of what's wrong with the field of psychology, where it is philosophically. Anyway, his answer is women don't apologize because they're emotional. Because women are more emotional, she's going to care less about what she did, whether it's right or wrong, and more about how you feel, whether you're upset. So women don't apologize, they just want to make you feel better. Which is, of course, true. Women do, in fact, be shopping. I'm the last guy on earth who's going to argue against sexist stereotypes. Yes, women are more emotional than men are. And if you think that's belittling to a woman, I'm sorry, but that represents really your own internalized misogyny. Yes, the woke language here is appropriate. You have been gaslit by your poor liberal arts education into thinking that we can have logos without arrows. So, Dr. Taraban's answer here is correct. What is wrong with it? Do you see what's wrong with his answer? That's right. His answer is irrelevant. Would you say that the cause of somebody's behavior is beyond their control, outside the individual's control? When you say it's biology, when you credit it to her biology, then you're no longer talking about psychology. You're just talking about biology. It's like if you asked an engineer why a bridge collapsed, and his answer was gravity. Yes, gravity has something to do with it, but you're an engineer, you're not a physicist. And in fact, that answer is so terrible, it almost sounds like a lame dad joke, right? Like, oh, why did the bridge collapse? Because of gravity. Are you not a psychologist? If you are, then you need to break the cause of somebody's behavior down to a choice the individual makes, to her consciousness, something we know exists because to deny it is to affirm it. As Rush says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So, why would Dr. Taraban talk about biology rather than psychology? Because he doesn't know what psychology is, which is why this is not an attack on Dr. Taraban. He can't talk about psychology, nor can anybody else in the field. And when they do, it's just kind of an accident. You just stumble upon it like a blind squirrel finding a nut, and so forth. So no psychologist can really talk about psychology because they don't know what it is. Presently there's no coherent view of what psychology is, and they don't know to such an extent, as we can see here, that they don't even know when they're discussing a different field altogether. Conversely, there's another side of the psychology aisle, and they would say something like, yeah, the reason why women don't apologize as much as men do, if they would even concede that point, is because of patriarchy. Right? You can't, because women have been oppressed by men for so long, you can't hold them to the same standards that you would hold men to. Yeah, they have every right to, so-called protect themselves. Which again, say it with me. When you credit a reason for an individual's behavior that lies outside of her control, when you credit it to society, then you're talking about sociology, which may be an interesting field. I mean, I don't think so. Yeah, man, I think it's interesting in the same way, phrenology is interesting in an anthropological context. But the point is, when you say the cause of an individual's behavior is outside of her control, then you're not talking about psychology, which indicates what a correct answer here would look like. Why don't women apologize? It would need to come down to a choice the woman makes. It would need to come down to what her emotions are, because that's where our decisions come from emotions. Her emotional state drives her decision. Not the fact that she's emotional. Everybody's emotional. Rather, what her emotional state is. So why don't women apologize? 2 reasons. Because we have 2 emotions. Anxiety and anger. So first we have the anxiety reason, which we could say in a million different ways, but a good word here is abandonment, loss. You're afraid others will leave you or perceive you as bad, or they'll abandon some image they have of you in their mind. Your quote-unquote power in the relationship will be abandoned. And you'll say things like, oh, well, it's no big deal. Let's just, move on. Why bring it up? It's only going to, open up old wounds. And we call that resistance, unconscious anxiety. Then there's the anger reason for why women don't apologize, which again, we could say in a million different ways, but I think a good word here is resentment. He doesn't deserve the apology, right? He doesn't apologize to me, so I'm not going to apologize to him. And of course, these 2 emotions, anger and anxiety, like light and heat, as we say, they rarely exist separately. So why doesn't a woman apologize? Well, it's going to be some combination of, it'll only make it worse, and, well, he still needs to apologize to me for that one thing that he did. So women don't apologize, and for the same reason everybody doesn't apologize. For the same reason everybody doesn't make a decision they want to make, because of unmanaged emotions. These unmanaged, unconscious emotions especially get triggered in romantic relationships, because, women, I think they apologize all the time. In my experience, maybe I'm wrong, but I think women apologize more than men apologize. But women just don't apologize to their boyfriends, right? To their husbands. Romantic relationships challenge us on a deeper level. They mean more. We have more reference in our unconscious that undergird, that support a romantic relationship. It involves a whole nother part of the body, so it's going to involve a whole nother part of the psyche. Your insecurity, resentment issues are going to be way more likely to be triggered in a romantic relationship, and they're going to be triggered more egregiously. Right? But yeah, it happens to be the case that due to biological reasons, when women don't apologize, they're just going to try to make you feel better. But that's not why women don't apologize. And if you think that's an answer, then you're not a psychologist. You're just a guy who talks about psychology. So both men and women fail to apologize for the same reason. And that's good news, because therein lies the resolution. If you're frustrated when your girlfriend or wife doesn't apologize to you, well, now you have something to relate with her about, which I think is especially easy to do here, because there's a male comp for the infamous female non-apology, and that is, of course, apologizing but not meaning it. I could just as easily make a video called Why Men Apologize and Don't Mean It, talk about some dumb biological reason, say that because of their hormones, men are more logical and less emotional, so when they know apologizing is right, they're going to be more likely to do it, even if they don't feel it, and that will all be a non-explanation. You get it. As a man watching this video, you get it. Apologizing sucks. And you can come up with a million different reasons to not do it, and they all make total sense. So how do you apologize? I'm just going to go over this really quick because I think it's important. I think it's, whatever. I think there's 3 guidelines here that I would emphasize. The one that people talk about correctly is don't explain your behavior too much. Unless you're really good at it. But otherwise, if you're just talking like, well, at the time my mom was sick and my sister was going through surgery, and then it sounds like you're making excuses for your behavior, when in fact you may just be explaining it. So you can do that. You can explain your behavior just to let people know what's going on with you without making excuses. If you get good at that, usually you have to be in therapy for a while to do that well. So don't explain your behavior. It's not necessary for an apology anyways. And of course, don't mention the other person's part. Often when it comes time for us to apologize for a wrongdoing, for something that, we did wrong, the other person usually played a part as well. They contributed to the wrongdoing, and, we're often tempted to bring up their part. But this is about you getting right with yourself, which psychologically means integrating that bit of weakness, that bit of unconscious material that led to you hurting somebody. You want to integrate that into your psyche, right? You're apologizing for yourself. So just don't mention the other person's part. It's irrelevant. In the court of law, it's relevant, but this isn't the court of law. This is psychology. This is your wholeness is at stake. Your integration is at stake. Then the third thing that I was arguing about with people on Twitter maybe like a month ago, and I got a lot of pushback on, which is kind of strange to me. Well, I guess it's not strange because everybody's so obsessed with like positive psychology and only positive vibes. Anyways, the third guideline is to show that you feel guilty. You feel guilty, right? That's why you want to apologize. An important part of that affect regulation, as Jung reminds us about 10,000 times, is expressing the emotion. Don't just say, I feel guilty. You feel that feeling. Allow it to be expressed in what you say. I mean, you don't have to say, I feel guilty. You can if you want, but that's beside the point. It's more about letting people see what's going on with you. And that's really what an apology is about. It's just letting people see what's going on with you. And really, that's what any point of connection is about. Still, the saddest part of Dr. Taraban's video comes at the end, when even after all that biology talk, he still gives women a lecture on how they need to apologize because it's what men respect. And if you want men to respect you, then you need to apologize. Okay, so he went from biology to ethics, and a pretty crappy, low-res, duty-based ethics. I may add. I mean, the last thing you want is for your girlfriend or your wife to apologize just to shut you up. I mean, if you think that's a solution, then do you even know what a relationship is? Anyway, so that's what I want to offer you guys, right? Just this therapy based on a true, full, coherent, universal, first principles based conception of what psychology is. And as I hinted at here, it comes down to emotions. You need to understand what emotions are and how they work, because emotions are modes of operation. They are the psychological component of an action, of a decision. You don't make a decision that isn't emotional. You can make a decision with emotions you're unaware of, and we call that making a decision you don't want to make, but you don't make a decision that isn't emotional. So when you want to change the decision, but you can't, or you can't change it long enough for it to matter, right? You're just inconsistent, then you need to first approach the emotion, identify the emotion, look at the emotion for what it is. It really helps. No, it's fundamental to know how emotions work so you can approach the emotion, for what it is. It's like anything else, right? If you're a zookeeper and you want to approach a bear for what it is, you need to know what a bear is and their psychology and how they operate. It's no different here. So as you approach the emotion, it becomes more conscious. As it becomes conscious, it changes, and you're more likely to make the decisions you want to make. This won't feel good, of course. This is not some Tony Robbins, pump yourself up, psych yourself up to feel better. I'd rather have you sober. Right? All that psyching yourself up, it's usually a distraction. I'd rather have you sober, which means Make the decisions you want to make. Of course, be able to trust your intuition. Not that your intuition's right or your feelings are always right, but you know what they're telling you. Or you have literacy with your emotions, emotional literacy. You can read them. You know the vocabulary. You know the syntax. And, I guess in the context of apologizing, you could say, and don't let go of the past. A lot of people tell you to let go of the past, but you need to hang on to your past. Integrate it. Infuse it into your personality, and only then are you able to really see your past for what it is, which is your greatest asset when it's integrated. So I do free consultations. joinanimus.com/schedule. If you want to reach out, let me know what's going on. I'm happy to hear from you and help you out in any way I can. And then if you want, I can talk about what I do, what my therapy is and how it works. And if you want to learn more about, I guess we talked about attachments, what it takes to form healthy attachments. And if you want to learn more about attachments, attachment disorder, I did a video on that maybe about a year ago now. I'll put it here somewhere on the screen. So click on that and talk about attachments, how anxious and avoidant are similar, what attachment disorder is, how to work through it, all that fun stuff. So I'll see you there, and I wish you all the joy and pain you need to feel to apologize in a way that connects you with somebody else, regardless of what your gender may be.